Now, what is the ego? I personally like to refer to it as the self. So what is the self? And in my books, Zero to Hero and The Essence of Trading Psychology, I talk about the illusory of the self, which is a reality that is widely known in Buddhism and meditation circles. But what does it mean to say that the self or the ego is an illusion? We use the notion of self in a variety of ways, and sometimes we use it to refer to a person as a whole. The self is your body, every feature of your mind, your autobiographical memory, your emotions, your powers of cognitions. But that is not this self that is an illusion. I'm not saying that people don't exist. Are you really there listening to this course? Yes, you really are. Are you riding a horse in the mountains of Colorado at this moment? Not that you can tell. So it makes sense to talk about you as a distinct person existing at a specific point in space and time. But we use this term self in another way. We use it to refer to the sense that we all have, that we are separate from the world, that we are separate from others. We use it to refer to the sense that we don't even feel identical to our bodies and experiences. We feel that we are appropriating those. We feel like we have bodies. We feel like we're passengers in these bodies. There's this strong feeling that we're riding around in our heads as subjects, as thinkers of thoughts, and experiencer of experiences. For instance, as you sit there, you undoubtedly feel like you're behind your eyes in a way that you're not behind your feet. Your feet are down there, and they're your property in some way. If they're hurting, you're worried. If they're not, you're not. But we feel that we're subjects. We feel that we're in the head, behind the eyes, and we're, in some strange sense, pulling the levers and the gears of this vehicle that is our body. Isn't it the case? Now, we know that our subjectivity, what it feels like to be us, can't be structured this way. We know this as a matter of scientific inquiry, but also common sense. There can't be a little guy inside our head telling us what to do, because that would invite infinite regression, right? So in other words, you would have to explain the subjectivity of the subject inside your head, and the subjectivity of that subject, and the subjectivity of the subject within the subject. And neuroanatomically, this doesn't make any sense either. We know that everything you experience, your thoughts, your emotions, moods, impulses that initiate behavior, all of these things are delivered by a myriad of different processes in the brain that are spread out over the whole of the brain. And those can be modulated through a set of conditions and can also be independently interrupted. I mean, we are changing systems, processes, and there's no place in the body where a self as a subject could be hiding. So in talking about the ego, the self, that is what we're essentially referring to. It's the feeling of being separate from everything else and looking at a world that is other than what you are. But again, this is an illusion, and the goal of the practice that we're learning is to cut through this illusion. I'd like you to imagine an apple being cut in half, swiftly. In some ways, the experiential understanding of selflessness, of the ego being an illusion, is like the dramatic cutting through that apple. It's cutting through ideas, concepts, beliefs, notions, and everything that constitutes the different mind elements. And what remains is only awareness of the present, as it is, not as we are habitually conditioned to perceive it. As your mind gets concentrated, stabilized, and refined, as you look closely at this thing you're calling I, you'll find it to be absent through your own experience, okay? You'll find that what you call I or me are just appearances in consciousness in this knowing space you call your mind. You will see that the self is just a thought. And so, like any other thought, it's a fabrication. As long as you're completely unaware of this, experientially, you will always take thought to be who you are. You see, the mind always wanders. And where does it wander? So many things. But if you notice carefully, you will find that there are only two fields where it can wander, past and future. That is the habit pattern of the mind. It keeps on rolling in the past or the future, and it doesn't want to live in the present. And that is what births the ego. So as you realize this within your own practice, another important reality will become clearer and clearer to you. While the mind wanders in the past and the future, again, there are two fields where it wanders, pleasant and unpleasant. For the past, it's either pleasant memories or unpleasant ones. For the future, it's either pleasant projections or unpleasant ones as well. And so the mind reacts with craving and aversion constantly, craving towards the pleasant, aversion towards the unpleasant. Our thinking, the content of our mind, is conditioned by the past. And so our mind creates this concept of ego for survival reasons, always gravitating around what is pleasant and averting what is not. I can't think of any other reason. The ego is continuously struggling for survival and trying to protect and enlarge itself. The central core of all mind's activity consists of certain repetitive and persistent patterns of thoughts, emotions, and reactions learned from previous experiences. And we use that to navigate the present and make predictions about the future. Now, most people are completely identified with their ego, this voice in the head, the incessant stream of involuntary and compulsive thinking, and the emotions that usually accompany it, that they become slaves of their own mind. They are not maximizing their experience of living, and that is why they keep shooting themselves in the foot when they trade. My friends, how can you consistently follow your plan if every passing doubt, fear, anxiety, or even complacency, all of those appearing as thoughts, how can you consistently follow your plan if you identify with each and every one of those? If those capture you the moment they arise as they appear to be who you are, it is an impossible endeavor. You have to believe me on this. If you are strongly identified with your ego and this sense of I that resides in every thought, every memory, every interpretation of the world, opinion, viewpoint, reaction, emotions, it's not too hard to see how this is a problem. Because when you look at the world with this ego filter, all you tend to see is information that fits your own worldview, what's already present in your mind as memories and as patterns of thoughts and emotions. And this is limiting, because there is more to the world than our mere perception of it.